Hello, everyone. This is going to be about C22. And if there's anything I don't like, it's misinformation or, you know, fattening up the language, so to speak, making it more ornamental or anything like this. Um, Especially when it comes to communicating legislation, and that's a real bore to a lot of different people. But it's important to do these things, to have clarity and precision in the language, because it's I find this really interesting that this is the first legal document that I've encountered of the few legal documents that I've reviewed, um, for my own entertainment, quite frankly, and for preservation of my individual liberty. Quite frankly, if I'm going to take a little bit more from the Americans, because individual freedoms are the same in principle, irregardless of what borders they exist within. The only time at which individual rights, become really interesting is maritime law, and then like basically the captain of the ship is like fucking scary, man. You gotta scary, right? Um, I'm looking at this, and it's not as terrible as people think. Okay, it's not this. I'm not. There's no alarm bells ringing in my head here, and I'm not saying this out of callousness or out of fatigue. Um, Even though the times at which I can't sleep at night, I usually end up doing something like this, or reviewing these private member bills, and be fucking brain injuries, guys. I'm telling you. You have an officer slam your head up against a concrete wall and then threaten to take your arm home with him. You're not gonna quite be the same after that, you know. Five fucking burly dudes on top of you, and then the sergeant fucking breaks your ankle. Like, that's the fucking cherry on top. Fuck's sakes. I don't know. I don't know how many wagons I'm gonna have to burn, or how many barns I'm gonna have to burn before people actually start listening to me. It's really frustrating. I know some people are, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough. Um, because justice needs to move swiftly, right? It needs to come down like that gavel and be decisive, right? It can't. You have to strike while the iron is hot, right? Otherwise, the temperament is going to change, and then it's going to break as soon as you attempt to use it. Uh, so this is called uh, the alternate title is the Lawful Access Act, and what it's really about is that this is a national security act. This makes amendments as an update to the CSIS Act, which is the Canadian Security Intelligence Service Act from 1985. So 1985 was 41 years ago, and the provisions laid out, or set out by that act, the CSIS Act, are not current anymore. This is It was a necessity to make updates, because when it comes to the ISPs, so the internet service providers, and the infrastructure people, because the service provider is not necessarily the person or the organization that has possession or control or responsibility of maintenance to its customers and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, of said infrastructure. And what really has been in progress is this agenda, and I say this in a positive way. Usually, when someone says an agenda in the post-internet epoch, it's something nefarious, or it's gonna it's gonna be the number of the beast or something like that. Some sensationalist bullshit, and it isn't. It isn't. This isn't. This is not. The number of the beast. Okay, like we can all back down from your firing positions, and it's a nothing burger. This is intended to um, give the police another avenue to obtain information, but they have to have a good reason. And the ISP, so the service provider, can actually revoke the request. That's an interesting part here. They can make a submission to a judge to justify why they can, or why they are rejecting the the production order or the compliance order. There are. I'm going to go back to the first reading here. Okay, again, there's amendments. Excuse me, to the criminal code, so that they have provisions to lay charges. Most of them, okay, so then it talks about the usual suspects, such as perjury or interference, stuff like that, to be charged by a summary conviction and a fine up to, I think it was, as I read, it was up to $5,000 on the first offense. Okay. It also, I thought it was interesting that they made amendments to the Controlled Drugs and Substance Act, and then the Cannabis Act. But illicit cannabis is still a thing here, even after the end of Prohibition. And of course, that supports illegal activities. And where does that money go? It usually goes to some network of individuals that take it upon themselves to be assholes, and they don't have the education or the intelligence to stop being assholes. And their obsession with other people's assholes, especially the assholes of vulnerable sex workers or of children, is a problem. So, if you still got your Google account and you got some porn on your Google Drive, consider yourself clean, because I'm gonna raise this up, because I sat in on a court case. It was more than a year ago, um, in which a native man was being prosecuted for the possession and distribution of child pornography, and he was implicated in the production of it, and was using cannabis as the lure for these underage girls. Like, at the time of the offense, they were like, I don't know, like 13 or 14 years old, something like that. And again, what really got me was the fact that the defense tried to dismiss his actions by justifying it with his upbringing. And I thought that was complete horseshit. It was horseshit, right? Uh, your upbringing does not dictate who you are as a person in the moment. You do. You do. Not who you are in that moment. Um, that's the person that decides, right? Not the shoulda, woulda, coulda, and disappearing alibi. Again, through the three readings, it starts off okay, so that the cops can only ask for a yes or no answer as to whether or not a suspected person is a customer of the provider, and it doesn't allow for a tabula rasa access to people's search histories or activity on social media. You can pretty much figure that out by public record with little to no law enforcement involvement. The internet is a wide open place, even as we try to regulate it, where you try to get a stranglehold um, on the coyote in the henhouse, so to speak. So like there's yeah, again, monetary penalties. And more, this is really it's just like I fail to see how this is anything more um as it says on the justice.gc.ca website concerning this, in that it provides a legal mechanism by which they can ask for information and then follow through on that information through investigation, but it doesn't require entry, right? It doesn't require entry of a premises, a domicile, a place, or a thing, which everything's a thing now. Everything is not awesome. Yeah. Okay. So as it says, the law enforcement, the LEO, is not required to go to a judge to ask for a warrant to obtain information. They can go straight to the service provider of the person to ask, again, as it says, a yes or no question. Does this person subscribe to your service? Yes or no? Okay. Were they at this place at this time, according to your data? Yes or no? And they can't ask or pry more information than that. That is anything that is not formulated as a yes or no question. But then the amendments state that they can ask for a little bit more if required. Uh, Again, so that would also have an involvement of a justice of the peace, or something similar. So again, they have to have justifiable cause, right? They have to have reasonable cause in order to go through with this. Why is this needed? Emergency circumstances justify police action to prevent serious injury, death, or action in response to immediate danger of the loss, removal, disappearance, or destruction of evidence. This would codify the common law power of police to act in emergency situations where third-party holders have information critical to an investigation or real-time intervention, for example, kidnapping or terrorist attack. So again, this more or less has to do with organized crime and trying to place people uh, in a time and a location, uh, so that they can weed through uh, the false positives. And they don't have that right now because the CSIS Act doesn't have any provisions for it. So that's the gist of it. Um, and again, this is explained fairly well, fairly good, by the Department of Justice's website here. Um, if you're really compelled to read the bill, it's not as big as some other bills, and I honestly I have no resistance to this. I really don't. This is not some Orwellian thing. There's two bills. Of course, the part one, timely access to data and information, then supporting authorized access to information. Whew. That's about it. That's about it. Uh, Again, if you're not committing crimes, you have the eye of Sauron isn't gonna come around and shine its beam on you, right? So so you and your fellowships, while you may not be conducting criminal activity, sooner or later they're gonna find a reason to. I'm gonna make a reference to the daycare fraud schemes in the states, and it's specifically what I'm referring to when I say, well, your fellowship and so on and so forth, your fellowship of the cock rings. Yep. No, I'm skimming over this again. Uh, this will be up for review in 3 years, and then after it. This was done very quickly, right? And the reason why I think it was done very quickly between the first and third reading, because first reading was March 12th, right? And that's less than 2 months ago. Versus now being June 21st, and the third reading was on the 18th, so that was 3 days ago. And yeah, yeah, okay. So if you're not participating in terrorism or trying to organize terrorist attacks, or you're not involved in organized crime or the distribution and sale of illicit substances, serious ones like Schedule 2 or Schedule 1 for you Americans. Um, yeah, yeah. I fail to see why people are just losing their minds over this. Like, it's just like, okay, if you're not a diddler and you're not trying to pose as a diddler as some sort of stupid vigilanteism so that you can catch other diddlers, um, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Again, there's way too many people for the police to deal with here. They just want to go after they just want to concentrate on the ones that they can 100% prosecute, versus going on a fool's errand or a wild goose chase to prosecute people that have no criminal responsibility for the accused act. Fuck's sakes. You choose the word over someone else than an aircraft mechanic. You fucking stupid. I said this to my public defender when I was behind bars. I said to him, every aircraft mechanic, every AME in Canada, right, by title and by privilege, especially the ACAs. Every ACA is an aviation lawyer. Okay, when it comes to paperwork, we have to dot our I's, cross our T's, and mind our P's and Q's, quite literally, right? Because if your handwriting is shit, no one can read it, and then your chief will make you do it again, and it has to be in black ink. Um, because then the maintenance release, the release of responsibility, right, or the type certificate becomes a legal document for the purposes of liability, and then compensation in the instance of there being an incident or an accident. So before I stop this at 20 minutes, again, this is just updating the CSIS Act. Quite frankly, that's all it is. That's all it is. If you were opposed to this bill, I don't know, man. I don't think you read it. I don't think you read all three readings. And a lot of people don't. And I'm going to hold that against you for not reading the legislation of these bills, or say the writing of these bills, before you vote for them, or you rely too much on your staffers or your aides to do it for you. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. Okay, so thanks for tuning into this briefing. I guess it's not even 9 o'clock in the morning yet. And I'll do this again. It was something that interests me. There's something else about of course, the digital ID that started surfacing in rumors like at least a month ago, and then Carney pushed it through, and kind of like this one, right, where C22 as was pushed through within a couple of months, but for different reasons. I think C22 was pushed through so that they could go after certain people, and they could start disrupting these criminal organizations that are causing the gun crime in the more built up areas in Canada, because that is where the gun crime is taking place. It's in these urban areas like Chicago or similar to Chicago, and they're just starting to adopt the gunshot locators, and that's it. The gunshot locators are exactly the reason why all of these tuner cars go around with the pop and crackle tunes. They're like make it sound like gunshots. Some of them are doing that on purpose, um, and not because they're trying to imitate anti lag. Right, that's the only reasonable explanation as to why that became popular. Um, so besides all that, have a good Sunday. If you're Mormon, maybe you're not working today. You're in the house of God. I don't know. Maybe you're having sex with your third wife, and I applaud you for doing that. Fuck it. Screw the Muslims. That's what their plan was, anyways, was to overpopulate Christians. It's always been their way. Besides that off-color thing at the end here, thanks for tuning in. Yes, again, happy Sunday. God bless.